My name's Amy Thornley-Heard, artist, and I'm a mother, artist, potter and poet, and we're gathered to talk about my piece of work, Matremorphosis, which is one of the installations in this brilliant exhibition space, Hatch exhibition titled Journeys. And so I'm going to be getting into Matremorphosis. Hopefully you've all had a chance to see my red fabric womb space with my large hanging chrysalises, as well as some other works that have led up to this point. But as my actual introduction, I would like to dedicate this talk and this work to my mothers. That's Susan Christiansen, married name Heard. Diane Kilby, married name Christiansen. Elsie Mary Potter, married name Kilby. My mother, my grandmother, my great-grandmother. Barbara Burnett, married name Heard. Alice Snell, married name Burnett. And Lucy Henson, married name Heard. Matremorphosis has many points of conception. In 2011, I was studying ceramics at Kensington and Chelsea College in London, and I had a project I needed to make for the BTEC in ceramics, and I just became spontaneously, pre having children, pre even really thinking about it, to look for something that could symbolise the change that happens when a woman becomes a mother. And the result was Handle with Care, which is actually more than what I've got on display, but here we have 3 ceramic chrysalises that I made at the time, and I feel like Handle with Care was a good title for that. And even though I hadn't had children yet, I knew mothers needed to be handled with care. And then in 2015, Martha was born. And obviously that was a huge transformation for myself and Joe and our family. And then in 2024, I went to Matrescence Festival in Exeter, which was an incredible, inclusive, well-cared space for anyone who wanted to go to Matrescence Festival, run by Lizzie Humber and Claire Tonti. Lizzie's come today. Thank you. I just had this vision of giant chrysalises all in the space. It's Theatre Alibi in Exeter. It's a huge, big hall, without, like here, but without the beams. And I just saw this huge space filled with giant chrysalises, something to offer mothers as a place of solitude, or a place to go and lick your wounds, like the place to go and be yourself. And that's what Matremorphosis is. Let's break it down. So Matremorphosis is actually made up of 2 words, matrescence and metamorphosis. Matrescence is the developmental transition into motherhood. Not a particularly well-known term, but it's getting more well-known as we spread the word. And it was a term created by the medical anthropologist Dana Raphael in 1973. So it has been around for a long time, and I'm sure it's existed before that as well. Metamorphosis is the complete transformation of something, and in this case, it is the butterfly life cycle and holometabolism, which is what happens inside a chrysalis when the caterpillar has disintegrated and is left with just a few parts that still exist from the caterpillar becoming a butterfly. So I'd like to read a poem for my grandmother, and it's for my grandmother Barbara Heard, née Burnett. And here it goes. Grandmother, grandmother, ever ready to hold my hand, mother. By our sides, you understand, mother, they don't make people like you anymore. But you did. We come from you. You are in us, Nanny, whether egg or influence. You continue hence, within us your kin, family chosen over and over by you. And here is how I know. Sellotaped cards with £1 coins. Sweetie jar and biscuit tin offered with your inner child's grin. Roast dinners at lunchtime. Canal walks. Delicious trifle I will never forget. 4 types of cream. Clotted, single, double and squirty. Luxury saved for we grew up feeling worthy. For we are the people of the land. Clay or loam, silt or sand, these too run through heavily veined. It's evident, our souls soil stained. We are rural working class, and they don't make people like us. We are dying out, so let's praise our earthly mother, who has reclaimed you to create more life in this place. I first heard about matrescence through someone called Alexandra Sachs, who's a doctor in the States, and that was in 2018, so I was already 3 years into my motherhood journey. And also I was very lucky to come across the book Matrescence by Lucy Jones, who is actually a journalist looking at science and nature and ecology. But when she became a mother, she wrote this book, and it was incredible. It's so incredible. Anyone you know who's having a baby, or the parents, or the partner, please buy this and give it to them, because it's a brilliant, honest account of her journey, but also with her insight as a scientist and science writer, and just her intimate knowledge of life cycles is so important. She mentions the chrysalis and the fact that, and basically she kind of wasn't really finding any really up to standard symbols for motherhood either. And she kind of thought, well, actually, like the chrysalis and the life cycle of the butterfly are really significant in a sense, but also she thought slime molds and fungus were much more of a description of what motherhood is really like, with all the goop and all the mess and all the intelligence, but it's not linear intelligence of mothering. So that's matrescence, a new way of thinking about motherhood. And we also have the verb mothering. So separate to motherhood, it is the actual act of mothering something, someone, or bringing something up in a caring way. And anyone can mother. It's not just the domain of women. You don't have to have birthed someone to mother them. It can be on a care level, it can be on an adoptive level. And this is a quote from Naomi Stadlin, who was a great listener to mothers for 30 years. She listened and wrote books about mothers and had an amazing book, which I love, called What Mothers Do, especially when it looks like nothing. That really helped me and hit home. And I think Lucy went to Naomi Stadlin's groups so I think there's a connection there between those two. And she says, mothering is parenting, but parenting is not mothering. She also says, I love the way mothering goes under the borders and connects people. I think this is our great hope for the future. And I agree. Motherhood. The third aspect of matrescence, mothering, matremorphosis, which I personally see as a construct, a social construct, and there's no one better to look at this with than Dr. Sophie Brock, an Australian sociologist, who created the model of the fish tank, which describes the social expectations and the idea of a perfect mother that women who are becoming mothers and birthing people are having to push up against There's also the term which I want to bring in to be as intersectional as possible, which is mother M/other, which is a brilliant term that brings everyone who could possibly be a mother or mothering in to this whole journey with us. So that's all people who can birth, women, non-binary people, intersex people, trans fathers, queer families, and we're also standing on the shoulders of queer black women, such as Bell Hooks and Audre Lorde. And there's a brilliant book called Revolutionary Mothering, which brings a lot of thoughts about this together, by Alexis Pauline Gumm. So I'd highly recommend those books. But for a quote from Bell Hooks, who was a feminist critic, poet and intellectual on love, feminism, patriarchy, and white supremacy, love is a verb, a political act and a choice, not just a feeling. Also included within that M/other is the fact that you may have had a mothering journey, a biological mothering journey that hasn't ended in a live birth. And so we include all of those people in our work with mothers. Right. My matremorphosis was quite brutal. I had a traumatic birth trigger warning for birth trauma. I hope, you'll see the trigger warning on the booking. So I'm talking about birth trauma. I'm talking about, it mentions, it's not like the whole thing, but there is one poem that mentions child death and maternal mental health. Having my child was a beautiful blessing, but also it really made me feel my womanhood for the first time and my humanity. And this brings me on to the piece Earth Mother, Fungal Fimbriae, which is the large chrysalis in my installation. It's inspired by the work of Louise Bourgeois and Judith Scott, who is was an artist with Down syndrome who spent a lot of time wrapping with wool and fabric. And it felt very cocoon-like, her work, and an expression of protection. She'd had a very difficult life. And the fimbriae are sort of the fronds and the filaments that go out from fungus through different materials that connect trees, soil, leaves, and they're what actually allows food and water and sometimes air to pass between different organisms within the soil. And I just feel like that so resonates for me as a mother. And the fact that we need connection and mutual intellectual nourishment. So, my next poem is called I Believe in Soil. I believe in soil. Is she not the universe? Brown chocolate cake crumbles, invisible creatures her allies, vermal conveyances bring her sustenance to bring us sustenance. Soil throbs with beating light and delicate nibbles of tiny mouths like babes to nipples. I believe in wombs. Uterus universe, fertile cushion that takes the ultimate blow so humankind may opt out and instead choose life. Expansion symbiotic with her web in search of oxytocin kicks and playful flicks of peace. A solid ground of sponge, aerated by laughter manifold. Hold hands, join the dots and choose happy tears over tearing fears. I believe in me, Amy, one of many soft-bodied with fertile overhangs that once were food, roof and walls for growing constellations. Meiosis, mitosis, osmosis, delicious temporary symbiosis. This also relates to Earth Mother, and which I really, like I said, I've created as a protective cocoon for myself, really, and for mothers after a very difficult period after having my first child. And I'm going to read the writing that goes with this piece, Mother and Child, which I started in 2015, shortly after Martha was born, and only finished last year in 2024. It just took him so long to get it right, because it does. Just trigger warning, it's quite visceral, this one. Mother and Child. Mother and Child was born in the aftermath of my first child's birth. I was throwing bowls on the wheel the first time I'd gotten back into the studio after Em was born. When I'm throwing, I get those first few right, and then one piece gets overstretched in a slick of clay, slip, and flops over. This doesn't worry me, as working with clay is a constant learning curve, and no one can throw on the wheel and not make mistakes. As Grayson Perry remarked in his Reith lecture, your mistakes is your style. And so it was that day. I was tightly coiled from sleepless nights and identity struggles, attempting to get back to my calling. I had been through the most devastating, limit-testing, visceral experience of my life to have my daughter. When the bowl went wrong, I exhaled in disappointment and felt something click. I had been through a transformation beyond my wildest imagination. Oh, so unprepared. And the ensuing art was my reaction. I looked down at the soft, torn, brown mess on my wheel head. I saw what I imagined my vulva to look like during and after my child's birth, which happened only with the assistance of a softly calming obstetrician and her tools, scalpel and forceps, and her surgical theatre colleagues, midwife, anaesthetist, and many other praiseworthy NHS professionals. Blood was gushing, which I perceived in the petrified pools of my gentle husband's eyes. What a terrible gift childbirth was for us. On my wheel head, undulating ripped clay, I felt words come to me, and with the only writing medium to hand, red clay slip, I scrawled words on my studio wall with my finger. Push, pull, shove, stretch, tear, cut. The word tear has two meanings, and both are relevant to my birth experiences. It occurred to me that I was in exactly the place to express what I could not say, what I did not have the words for. I dripped and drizzled white slip over the forms with like blood and birth fluids pouring. I tore the clay just as my daughter had pushed and torn through my birth canal. But I forgive you. And I scratched with wires to create a hair effect. I stuck the potter's knife in and pulled upwards, the clay collapsing back in, on and over itself, stretching beyond the limit, pushing fingertips in, scraping softness with sharp tools. Stretch, sweep, vaginal examinations left me violated. This group's name is Mother and Child for two reasons. The first being to subvert the concept of twee, martyring artworks that idolise a false perception of motherhood. Saccharine mothers looking sweetly down at their impeccably behaved babes. Propaganda, created to shame mothers into accepting the role and the servitude that comes with it. These abstract sculptures show no figurative mother, nor a round-cheeked child, but a lumpen mass. The second reason is that only a mother and a baby in the flow of being born can create this unique form of violence. These are the invisible physical consequences of birth. The impact on the mother's birthing body is symbolised by the tears, cuts, slits, slack skin, jagged edges, and the holes made by the midwife or doctor's needle to repair the damage. Thank you for being with me while I read that. That is so meaningful, thank you. And yeah, I'm with you if that brought up things for you that's difficult to hear. So, one of the 3 chrysalis forms that I've created is called expanded bodies, which is made from fabric that was our duvet set at the time that we had Martha, which got a friend made a scrunchie out of it for me. And also it's the pillow. That's me and Martha trying to do our first breastfeed in hospital with a pillow from home. And I just wanted to honour the fact that our bodies don't go back necessarily. Some people's do, but some of us just have loads of overhangs and bits of body that we didn't intend to put there. But they also were the home for our children, the home for ourselves, you know, a loving place to rest. And so I'd like to read a poem called Love Letter to My Breasts. In honour of those overhangs. Love letter to my breasts. Dear breasts, how sorry I am to have hated you so much in my youth, because I have so much respect for you now I am a mother. This is from 2023, isn't it? Yeah. Back then you grew so much, so quickly, that I was a double D at 16. You've continued to grow and change ever since. Now you're a J, but I don't have to call you that impersonal letter anymore. My bra calls you Thunder, which I love. At times, I wanted to reduce you, have surgery to make you fit the patriarchy's image of beauty, which seems ridiculous now. I'm glad I didn't make you smaller. My parents said, you may want to breastfeed. It might make that difficult, reduction surgery. Sage advice. Breastfeeding seemed far away when I was a young adult. It felt irrelevant. We didn't have the money anyway, but also a small voice inside me was whispering, you are enough. I was busy with life, uni, living abroad, finding Joe and all the other adventures. In the end, I chose to accept myself as I was. Accept you, breasts, as you grew and changed. When underwired bras became uncomfortable and expensive, I took your side and stopped wearing them. Now you wear the ones that call you Thunder, and I love it. Thank you, breasts. You have grown. You have grown my babies. With each new life, I revere and love you more. How could I ever have rejected you? I'm sorry I made myself feel bad for having you instead of smaller breasts. Now I am proud of all the milk you have created. I wonder how much. And the comfort you have provided. Immeasurable. Nourishment magicked from me through alveoli, through ducts and nipple to create baby body parts. Poured, stroked, caressed and loved by Martha and Leo. They helped me learn to respect you. My non-verbal babies taught me to love my body. Who'd have thought it? We birthing people are the envy of the world. Thank you, breasts, for being a beautiful part of me, whatever size and shape you've been. I'll love you forever, Amy. So, yeah, I like that. It's funny. Funny one, and it does feel weird talking to my breasts, but, you know, they deserve some love. So, sorry. The next poem is a lot more serious, and it is about trying to get what I needed for my second birth with Leo, and I'm just going to go straight into it. So it's called This Day. This day I went up against a familiar system, the one that broke me last time. It made its well-reasoned points through its medical delegates against my heart's desire for a C-section birth. I have no wish to reclaim birth. I have no wish to labour again. To reclaim my motherhood, that is my desire. To reclaim my right to be well in my mind, so that I may be present for myself and my loves. The person who suffered most last birth was me. The people who brought about my suffering were not around for the post-traumatic stress disorder, postnatal depression and anxiety. I had to do that alone. I lived that alone. I was so far gone, not even my mother and husband could find me. They cared for my outside, but they didn't know where I had gone. I was lost. To some extent, I still am. I lost a huge part of my identity, being a mentally ill mother. It nearly destroyed my marriage. It nearly destroyed me. But the one thread that I hung on by was wanting to be with my daughter. She is my saviour. Somehow, through all this pain, Martha made me a mother. Martha made my heart grow back, and now I am growing another beaming soul to brighten my life. I thank you for your work, though you do not yet know your part, darling. Thank you for your presence and love, Martha. Thank you and Leo for choosing me and Daddy. In the grand scheme of motherhood, it is we women, we mothers and children, who have the ultimate power, the creation of life and love. Thank you. Right, I'm very over time now, so I think, so I'll talk a little bit about domestic goddess, then I'll read one more and then we'll finish. So domestic goddess is the third giant chrysalis in my triptych. It's made of recycled ironed plastics from my kitchen, and the full title is Domestic Goddess, the Downfall of Civilisation, because I feel like plastic, it cheapens everything. It's everywhere. It makes such a mess. And the idea of the mother and the woman having to be at home in this patriarchal way is also creating a kind of backwards evolution, because we are not equal in decision making. We are not equal. And actually, the mothering process, the matrescence process, the motherhood process is a huge philosophical awakening. It has been for me. And I feel like we need mothers in all the conversations on every level, everywhere, politically, culturally, and especially environmentally. Okay, so my last poem is going to be Surrender. I surrender to the power of the people I made, the fierceness of my family. Drip, drip, drip. But our fire burns bright. Rolling reluctance for woeful work that comes up short against the clutch I brood. Regally we rest all limbs and oxytocin. Rule my raging royal life. Babies, take my heart, my body, my soul, wrap and bind them till their parts combine, melding into soup sublime. They twist and wriggle till my parts realign. Unstuck, restuck, sticking filings to magnet, appendages accrue in a chrysalis of love. warm womb space, heart home, for my beloveds till we're grown. Thank you so much for coming and being patient with my overrunning. And I just want to say one last thing. I feel like we can love our way to the world we really want through radical mothering. Thank you. I'm collaborating with Lisa Evans on this Matremorphosis, and she has a ballot box with cards where you can write motherhood is ... complete the sentence. So if you feel like doing that quickly, you're very welcome to. Okay. Thank you. Brilliant.